What is up, guys? We are back for episode 10 of Dud Dynasty's Getsum podcast, where we go through all things Dud Dynasty. And this one's a big one. This is episode 10. Yeah, we've reached the double-digit mark. This is awards finalist. Every one of these people talked over today will be able to be voted on by the league on whether you think they can win this award or not. The first set of awards are going to be going over players who are in the NFL and can win certain awards. Let's get started. The first one is Best Quarterback. Right here, we got Josh Allen. Have you heard of him? I sure hope. Because if you don't know Josh Allen by now, you should. 374.6 points he got this year in fantasy. Drake May with 360. Matthew Stafford with 358.4. And then Trevor Lawrence with 350.2. We will be able to watch all these guys this weekend because they are all pretty good at football. That also helps fantasy football teams. I mean, as you look at most of these guys' teams were pretty good. Actually, funny enough, only 2 of them made the playoffs. Yeah, because Stafford was on Ryan's team, and then Drake May was on Phil's. So I guess there's that. So maybe having a good quarterback doesn't matter. All right, on to the next one. We got wide receiver of the year. This one, we only have 2 options because really nobody else is close to these 2 guys. We got Puka Nacua, who had 375 points, and JSN with 359.5. I think it's pretty obvious who I'm going to be voting here. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see a huge difference, but it was close enough for me to include the other guy in the voting. And then tight end of the year. Yes, we are just going to give the tight end of the year award right to Trey McBride. Yeah, Kyle Pitts was second and had 100 less points. Yeah, Trey, you can have it. And same thing with Christian McCaffrey. You have been handed the RB of the Year award. You finished like 60 points above Bijan. You earned it. And then that means MVP will be between Christian McCaffrey and Trey McBride. So I just guaranteed them the other awards. Because if you're in the MVP conversation, you should just win the other awards if there's not anybody else in your position group at it. And the other 2 guys will be the wide receivers, Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith in Jigba. As far as the finishes for each of these guys, Christian McCaffrey was RB1, 416.6 points. Puka Nacua was wide receiver 1, 375. JSN was wide receiver 2, 359. And then tight end 1 by 105 points, 315.9, was Trey McBride. That's going to be a tough vote. I mean, I could see it going one of 2 ways. I mean, no offense to the wide receivers. I don't think they're going to be getting voted here much. I mean, it's really over, do you value the best player overall for the MVP award, or do you value the value that Trey McBride gave you over other tight ends? I mean, it's a tough vote. I'm unsure who I'm going to vote. I still need to think about this one. This is not an easy vote. The MVP award, it's not easy. But we're on to a new set of awards. Or, nope, we got this one first. Super Bowl MVP went to Brock Purdy. Yeah, he had way more points than anybody else on his team. Brock Purdy earned it, and congratulations to Brock Purdy on winning the first ever Super Bowl MVP in Dud Dynasty. Last year it would have been T. Higgins, just saying, but wasn't officially done. And then next, new sets of awards. We got some trade-related awards. The most influential trades of the year, we have 3 of them. We have A.J. Brown for Luther Burden and a second. We have Phil and Ryan's Mahomes, Harrison, and Adams monster deal. And then we also have the monster deal that included Olave, Hall, and Schultz, and a third, and also a first and second that went to Brett. That was very influential, I cannot lie, because that was the first time a first-round pick was ever traded in the league. On to the next award. Jesus, I can't pronounce shit. We have the most win-win deal. Funny enough, the Luther Burden and A.J. Brown and the Phil's monster deal with Ryan, with Mahomes, Harrison, and Adams both stay in this one because I consider both of those very big win-wins. And then the other deal joining this one instead of the monster with Mo Murda, we have the Love and Knicks swap. Yep, that's the one we went with. And it's overall a pretty win-win trade if you ask me. On to the biggest fleece. Yeah, this one took me a while. I went through them and went for a little bit on it, went back and forth. And these deals, me personally, I see it at least one way or another. First off, we got a second in Keenan Allen for J.K. Dobbins. Interesting, because J.K. Dobbins literally got hurt 2 weeks after that. Funny enough, J.K. Dobbins is in two of these deals. J.K. Dobbins is on the good side of this one. J.K. Dobbins and a fourth for Shadur Sanders. Interesting. Travis Etienne for Corum and a second. And a fourth. Not a second. Don't even think about a second. It was a fourth. That's all that Travis Etienne fetched. And Etienne was insane down the line. And then, honestly, I struggled trying to find a fourth one here, but me personally, I think it's a bad deal. Some people might think it's a good deal. This is a little bit of my bias coming in here, but I think trading a second and Olamide Zaccheaus, I don't really care about Zaccheaus, but the second for an old Tyreek Hill is not a great trade in my opinion. But some people might think it's a great trade, so if you're going to get mad at me at something here, get mad at me about that. On to the next ones. These ones are on draft picks. When you think of the first round draft picks of the year, who do you think of? One that comes to my mind is Tedoroak McMillan. Another one that comes to my mind, Ashton Genty. Another one, Tyler Warren. But you also have R.J. Harvey and Colston Loveland, who ended up finishing pretty good seasons here. As far as Ashton Genty, he was RB11 with 14.42 points per game. That is by far the highest one. Not saying it's an easy vote, but Ashton Genty definitely deserves a look in your way. Brett's 105 of Tedoroak McMillan, wide receiver 16 with 12.44 fantasy points per game. Chris's 107 with R.J. Harvey, who was RB20 with 12.15 points per game, was also a very good pick. Ryan's 109 with Tyler Warren, tight end 4 with 11.09 points per game. And then the Tuggers, Colston Loveland at 110, tight end 12 with 10.32 fantasy points per game. Overall, I mean, Colston had a tough start to the season, but he got it going once he got healthy and started getting the ball in his way and finally was playing on the field. His per route run, he ended up having one of the best stat lines here for anybody. But overall, I think it's going to come down between either Ashton Genty, Tedoroak McMillan, and Tyler Warren here, just because you look for the most all-around season, in my opinion. But, hey, it's up to other people. Someone might think Colston Loveland deserves the vote. Me, personally, I'm not going to vote Colston Loveland because I'm not biased, and I'm not going to vote him, but I had him in the top 5 here. Personally, I had him 4, but I heard from some other people that they thought R.J. Harvey had a better season, so I included both. I think both deserve inclusion here, so I gave both the inclusion. And then on to the next one. When you think of mid-round draft picks, who are you thinking of? Yeah, some Cleveland Browns in this one. You got Jackson Dart is the other one, though. Matt's 209 with Jackson Dart. He was QB 14 with 17.61 fantasy points per game. Only played a full 12 games. And still, somehow was in the QB in the top 15 for QBs. And then David's 206 with Harold Fannin, tight end 6 with 11.65 fantasy points per game. And then Roman's 2.02 with Quinshawn Judkins, RB26, 11.32 fantasy points, but sadly got injured late in the season. Honestly, I think this one could go either way. I mean, every one of these guys ended up having some injuries near the end of the year that ended up hurting them. Not Dart. Dart's injuries were a bit mid-season. But overall, I mean, not everyone here played a full season. I mean, if I had a lean here, honestly, I would go between Dart and Fannin. No offense to Judkins, but he missed a little bit too much time to get my vote. But it would go between Dart or Fannin. We'll see. I'm still thinking about this one. And then the late round steal of the draft, 4th and 5th rounds. Who do you think there? Yeah, I would assume Aronde Gadsden probably came to mind. He was tight end 15 with 8.76 fantasy points. I would think Tyler Schock came to mind. QB 26, but only played 10 full games. 14.91 fantasy points per game. Woody Marks also probably came to mind. That was Brian's 404. RB 29 with 9.44 fantasy points. And then Kyle Monangai, RB 30, 8.63 fantasy points per game. A lot of these guys, most of them didn't really start at the beginning of the year, so their points per games are a little low. But overall, I think you look at the guy who was doing the best by the end of the season, and that was arguably Tyler Schock. But I also think Kyle Monangai could have done better with a bit of more of a role. And you also got to think where the guys were selected. Kyle Monangai was literally 3 picks from being Mr. Irrelevant in this draft. That's a great pick, in my opinion. And I think that it could earn him the vote. It's an interesting situation. It's whether people think where the guy was voted or whether how people think about voting here. I mean, honestly, all 4 of these guys, they're good picks. I mean, I can't say any of these guys are bad picks because they were literally top 4 picks in the final two rounds. I mean, yeah, each of these were great picks, and we'll see how the voters decide here. On to the next one. We are thinking about team performances of the year. Yeah. You got Steel Curtains week 13 with 195.44 fantasy points. That is the highest in league history. You got Turd Ferguson's round 2 of the playoffs with 186.1. Yeah, that's even more pressure because it was the playoffs. That's what makes that one even better. I wouldn't say even better, but even more impressive, possibly, is the word you could say. But unsure how people will vote. We'll see how people think. Andy's week 5, 184.06, and then Team IR's week 2 with 181.6. Overall, all great performances. We'll see which one gets the vote. Game of the year. Yeah, there were some big ones. Week 2, Bishop Sycamore over the Tuggers with a stat correction that made it a 127.7 to 127.18 point win for the Bishop Sycamore. And then week 8, Little League All-Stars, or Kittle League All-Stars, geez, I can't pronounce anything, versus Brian, 120.08 to 119.92. Week 9, Tuggers versus Team IR. Yeah, there's 3 of these teams that are in here, in here twice. 112.5 to 112.16. And then the big mama of this, I mean, if you aren't voting, I'm not telling you what to vote for, but, like, I would be surprised if this doesn't win. Round 2, Kittle League All-Stars versus Bishop Sycamore. 180.22 to 179.7. Talk about high scoring and the fact that it was a playoff game in arguably for a possible chance to win the Super Bowl. Funny enough, it didn't end up meaning that because Kittle League All-Stars did not get it done. But funny enough, Bishop Sycamore would have. Tough. And then the most prestigious award, in my opinion, the Executive of the Year. This is a big one. We have it between Chris, the champion, Andy, who took a team out from 12th place all the way to the playoffs. We got Eric, who went from the wild card all the way to the, the Super Bowl. I don't know how I just blanked on that. And then Ryan, who went, I think he started off, I want to say, 3-5 and found a way to make it into the playoffs and had some big games down the line. But sadly, dropped an egg in round 2. But hey, that sometimes happens and that's how it is. Alright guys, that's about it for this one. If you want to vote, we got the Google form that will be going out in the chat for you to all to vote on, and that's how you vote. And that's about it. I'll see you all in the next one. See ya and goodbye.